Yeah. So I'm gonna let everyone in and I'll be back.
Very good. Well, thank you for both joining us. We're just going to have some introductions to start with, and this is the webinar for the Pavel Jelen Early Career Scientist Prize. And we're very grateful to have, so far we've got two people on the call who were previous winners, and we're just waiting for a third person. I've got a number of questions I'd like to ask you, just to talk in general about who you are and what you're interested in doing. And I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself before we start. Just to let you know who I am, my name is David Everett, and I'm located at the Reddit Institute in New Zealand. And I am a past chair of the Dairy Science and Technology Standing Committee, and also representing science and technology on the Science Program and Coordination Committee of IDF for 4 years, although I've now rotated off that committee. Welcome, and I'd like to just give a brief introduction about this award, and then we'll get to our panelists. So I'm going to put up a slide here, and hopefully this is going to work. Let me just see how we go here. Right, so what you should be now seeing is the opening slide. And let's just see, continue to share. Right, here we go. So just to introduce you to Professor Pavel Jelen, and he's often known as Paul around the world, and particularly in the IDF family. And Pavel Jelen was a professor. He's now retired, and he's Professor Emeritus in dairy science, in particular a researcher in whey proteins. And he was at the University of Alberta and in Canada, and actively involved in IDF events. And particularly, he was very much interested in the careers of his students. And he was actively involved in a number of different committees to allow students to study overseas for short periods of time. And he originally came from the Czech Republic. He did his graduate studies, his PhD in food science at the University of Minnesota in the United States. And as I mentioned, he was at the University of Alberta in Canada. And we're very grateful to actually see Paul and his wife Silva at the IDF meeting in Chicago in 2023. He has led an impactful research program on dairy whey and changed the global dairy landscape. And I've had the privilege of working with Paul on the International Dairy Journal. He was one of the key people in forming that journal back around 1990 or 1991. And so I worked with him as an editor, and Paul was the editor-in-chief of that journal for many years. I do have a wonderful story that Paul used to say about cheese and whey. And Paul being a whey scientist and me being a cheese scientist, he'd often refer to cheese as a byproduct of whey manufacture, which I thought was rather humorous. And he's, as I mentioned before, he's still is an active participant and has been for many decades, and a contributor to the work of the International Dairy Federation. So we're going to get to our three panelists today, and those are their photographs up on the screen. So Maria was a first place winner in 2024. Natalie was a second place winner in 2024, and Davo was the first place winner in 2023. So I'm going to just give you a few minutes. We'll start out with Maria, just to briefly introduce yourself and tell us where you're now working and what kind of projects you're involved with. So Maria, over to you.
Hi, and welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Maria. My background is in animal science, and in particular, I then focused on dairy cows. So then, I did my undergraduate in Italy, and after that, I moved to Ireland for my PhD and for my postdoc. And I mainly focused on rapid technologies to quantify traits from milk, both related to animals and also related, for example, to cheese making, milk quality, and all the sort of things. So in practice, I was focusing, it was a sort of a combination of animal science, dairy science, and a bit of statistics. And this is where I focused more during my PhD, and then during the postdoc, all this story continued. And the project I actually submitted last year was part of my postdoc I did in Chegaskin Island, and it was on quantify sustainability traits, in particular methane emissions and nitrogen use efficiency of dairy cows, using an instrument called mid-infrared spectroscopy, which is quite rapid, cheap, and fast to quantify all this information generally at national level. And it is developed all around the world. So it is very used in different countries, and I think it has lots of potential. And this is where I focus more for my project.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Maria. And if Natalie's on the call, perhaps you can introduce yourself. If not, we can go straight to Davo. So Davo, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just say what your research is, what you're doing now, and where you're working.
Hello, everyone. First, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here again today after 2 years now being part of the panelists. I'm Davo Danilowski. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Queensland in Australia, working in dairy structures and rheology, mainly working on production of high-protein yogurts in a collaboration with Fonterra and the University of Queensland. So my background comes from food science and technology and nutrition, where I did my bachelor's and master's, and then I decided to go to specialize a little bit more into dairy and work into genetic variants of caseins, production of casein micelles, ingredients, gels, yogurts, cheese, and at the end, digestion of all these products, gastric and intestinal digestion, which was actually part of a part of my presentation back in 2023, sorry, for the IDF Professor Jelen Pavel Early Career Scientist Prize. I was all my career for the last 7-8 years. I have been working on dairy proteins, more on casein micelle. That's the molecule that I enjoy and love working with. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell about me.
Great, thank you, Davo.
Thank you.
Now, what I'm going to do is just put you all back on the screen here without my notes, and I'd like to start out with a few questions. But just before I begin, this is the third year in 2024 where we've had the Pavel Jelen Early Career Scientist Prize, and the reason for setting up this prize was to look at one of the sustainability goals of IDF, and one of them was to make sure we have a sustainable membership. And now when I talk about membership, I'm talking about the listed experts that are part of the IDF group. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the members of IDF are the member countries, and they all have their national committees. As well as that, we have, last count, I saw over 1,000 names who are listed experts on many different aspects of dairy science and technology. The economics, lots of different aspects of the dairy industry. And to ensure that we don't have a dropping list of experts as people retire and are no longer active, we want to try and get emerging scientists, younger scientists, people who are just starting out their careers, who may be of any age, to be part of the IDF family and to be listed experts. For those of you who are listening, and you may be listening to this after the event, if you are an expert in dairy science, then you may wish to contact the secretary of your national committee in the country that you live in, and see if you're able to participate in some of the activities that we have of IDF. So let's get to the questions. And we'll start out with Maria again. What motivated you to apply for this award? And perhaps you can tell us, has that helped your career in any way?
So I went first. So I won in 2024, but in 2023 I went to the conference in Chicago. So went in Chicago, I attended the conference, and I actually enjoyed very much the conference and the way how IDF was structured. As the conference was a bit different compared to what I was used to in terms of research conference, where there are mainly research talks focused on materials and methods, results, and whatever. Well, in IDF, it was a very big overview about all the dairy sector, what's the future, what's the impact, and I have been really fascinated about this, and this motivated me to apply for the prize. But also you mentioned about the experts, so I contacted my national committee, and I asked to be involved. I asked to be involved into a couple of standing committees. So now I'm involved in the environment and into the animal health and welfare. And this is why it motivated me, the reason why I applied. And then I think it's a great option to get visibility. So then, as part of the conference, there were people asking me about my project, asking about myself, what to do, and what are the plans for my future. So I really think it helps to get a bit of visibility from more senior people from the sector, and not only in the research sector, but also from the industry sector.
Great. Thanks, Maria. And Davor?
Well said from Maria. So pretty much my interest aligns and my thoughts aligns with Maria's thoughts. But what I would say, I applied for this award because it aligns with especially my values and goals, and it's a great opportunity to recognize and to work with people that are your idols, and not just only your idols, but also people in your area, students, colleagues that one day they might be actually of your help, and or you can be of their help. Also, with this award, having this award from a very young scientist, and as the name is of this award, actually gives the opportunity to inspire young scientists as well. So before I applied, I wanted to try. So it was I wanted to see my luck, and of course to showcase my knowledge. And I had the opportunity to actually do that. And I always inspire young scientists to do as much as they can as possible they can have for their industry, and then present in meaningful positions and meaningful places like IDF, and then that was actually my inspiration. And of course, having, as I mentioned, connections with many people, having visibility, and also showcase what you've done if you think that it's impactful especially for the dairy industry. And that's why, as Maria said, IDF, it's a great platform. It's research, but also works for the industry as well.
Thank you, Davor. I understand that Natalie is connecting up to Wi-Fi, so hopefully she'll be with us soon. Now, those of you who are live on this webinar, there is a chat function there, and if you'd like to type in a question, I can ask those to the panelists at some stage during this event. Now, we'll go back to Maria again. When did you first get involved in dairy research? Was that your PhD or your postdoc, or was it before that? And what made you get into dairy?
So about getting involved in dairy in general, it goes back to probably when I was 14, because I attended a agriculture high school in Italy, and there was a dairy cow farm, so we were used to go outside, see the animals. So the contact with the dairy, it goes back to more than 15 years ago now. In terms of proper research, it started with probably during my bachelor thesis. So it's the first time I was starting collecting data from dairy farms. It was about economics and see when it was the best point of finishing a lactation in terms of profit. and then it went on with my master thesis, and I actually always liked dairy, and in particular the part of the animals. So the other thing I think it's important to say about IDF is that it's all about dairy, because quite like I went to the previous year when they were won, and it was a lot about transformation and processability, and then cheese and whatever. So okay, I'm an animal scientist. Is it appropriate for me as well? But actually, it is, because IDF covers everything from the animal science part, animal health and welfare, and farm management, to all the processing part up to the economic part. Um, so yeah, and that's all about dairy. I've always been fascinated about dairy, but more specifically about the part of the animals.
Hmm. Very good. And Double, how about you?
Yeah, so it started, to be honest, back in my bachelor's. I still remember my professor in chemistry. She gave me a project on dairy, particularly in milk, and I really enjoyed it. It was part of kind of like a mini bachelor thesis. And I had the opportunity to work in the laboratory in protein chemistry. And but then for the masters, unfortunately, they didn't have any funds to have the dairy project. I always loved to work in dairy, and luckily I got the opportunity during my PhD to actually work in dairy and expand my knowledge into protein chemistry. I was always in love with the casein micelle from my bachelor's. I really wanted to know why no one can answer the structure of the casein micelle. Just to make clear, not that I answered. I gave new knowledge, but still there are more. The research is open for more and more ideas to be put on the table. So that was one of the main drivers, and especially in Macedonia. I come from Macedonia, so we actually didn't know a lot about the genetic variants of milk proteins. And that was one of the triggers to know why different genetic variants of particular caseins or whey proteins might influence different, might actually react differently after or during digestion or even processability of milk and dairy products. And I got lucky to actually work into that area and that project, which was most of you know probably A2 milk and the story behind that interesting topic. So that was the main point how I got involved into dairy, and I'm happy for being in dairy still so far in this field.
Well, thank you, Double. Let's just talk a little bit about how to get into a dairy career, and what kind of assistance do you think that emerging scientists would need to have in order to establish a career, and how do you think that IDF can be of help? Maria.
I think more senior people are the key.
Mm.
So are well often the key. So having good mentors during PhD, having good supervisors, mentors during the postdoc, but having good mentors and supervisors doesn't mean that it has only to be related to the PhD or postdoc, and this is why how IDF can help as well. So in IDF, there are lots of senior people involved, the head of all the different groups, but also the participants to all the different groups. Like I participated last year to a couple of standing committees, and it was very interesting. Like me, and I was feeling very, very little and very young, not just in age, but in knowledge. So it was like, okay, I can learn a lot from here. And people talking, okay, we can work together. Um, they are willing to mentor and helping. So I think this is something IDF can give a added value. So as generally you're all in contact with your supervisor from your institution, while it opens the possibility to have other supervisors or other mentors outside your institution and outside also the research field, so also from the industry.
Yeah. So Double, What would your response be to that?
So as we mentioned before, Professor David, I would say IDF, it's a great platform to collaborate, to connect, and as well, especially to learn about dairy. So it is a platform because when we study, for example, during my PhD, I was specializing into the genetic variants of beta casein, but having a chance to be part of IDF at the moment and learning, actually meeting a lot of people and learning from them actually opened a lot of doors for my career. So I saw just quickly a question asked as well, which can relate to your question, is that it actually this award brings a lot for our careers, because on those meetings we don't just showcase our research, but also we learn and we listen about what else other people or researchers, either young or senior researchers, did in their pathway. So we connect with those people as well, and that means that IDF, like with this particular award, we can showcase our research. Even if someone is not the winner, still we can showcase to the judge panel, to people who actually read those great research. They can so we stay recognized in those eyes. So maybe in the future we can have a prosperity and work in the future with those people and increase the network, of course. Like that's why this it's very crucial for young scientists and early careers scientists to be part of these award presentations or conferences, and as well mini symposiums supported by IDF, for example.
Yeah, I think you both identified a key point here. It is about knowing people. It's about networking. It's about being face to face with people in the room, and it's always easy to make networking connections when you're in the same room as somebody. Over a Zoom call, it's a lot tougher to do that. So that's I think one of the great advantages of attending a World Dairy Summit, or even some of the other meetings or events that are held by IDF, just to get to know scientists in that area in your particular interest. So welcome, Natalie. Natalie, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and you're going to, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing. You're on mute, Natalie.
I'm so sorry. First of all, my apologies for the delay in getting here. Our rural Wi-Fi at home isn't the best, and we also don't have a great mobile signal. So I've migrated to the dairy shed where our Wi-Fi in the meeting room is a little better. Anyway, so I'm Natalie. I'm currently a postdoc with the Reddit Institute, so based at Massey University in New Zealand. My PhD focused on milk digestion and looked at what processing does for the protein, mainly the protein digestion, and then amino acid absorption. And that was what took me through to the IDF prize that we're discussing tonight. On the slide, I'm also a dairy farmer, so contract milking. We are responsible for milking 540 cows on a farm not too far from Massey University. So I guess I wear two hats when it comes to the dairy farm, the dairy industry connections in terms of both research and then the on-the-ground farming, which I really appreciate. With my postdoc work at the moment, we're more looking at food systems. So I sort of bring a nutritional perspective to a lot of the modelling that happens within the Sustainable Nutrition Initiative team. And that keeps me busy on my day-to-day, as well as finishing off a few papers from my PhD.
And just to catch up with the others, I'm going to ask you two very deep questions.
Okay.
What's the best thing that you did in Paris at the World Dairy Summit? Is the first question.
The best thing at the World Dairy Summit specifically, or at Paris in general?
Well, either.
I really did enjoy the Dairy Summit. It was just such an awesome event, really mind-blowing. I hadn't been to anything of that scale before. But also the connections that I made there was really something special, I think. To be honest, that was probably one of my highlights. Don't get me wrong, Paris was amazing. Did some incredible sightseeing as well while I was there. But the Dairy Summit, meeting so many people from so many different facets of that whole dairy industry, the whole chain, and learning how my research relates to work in so many areas was incredible. I really did leave there with a whole lot of connections that I think is my highlight, without a doubt.
No, very good. And what's your idea of the perfect vacation?
The perfect vacation.
Yeah, that's a load. Yeah. This is. I know the answer, but you can tell. You can tell what it is.
Probably
Something to do
have
with
cows or
something-
sheep in it.
Yeah, it has to have cows in it. Spending your vacation milking cows, I think, right?
No, it's not bad. Say
Right,
Switzerland. Perfect.
Yeah. Just in case people are wondering, New Zealand's a very small country, and we all know each other here.
Yes, David and I do work in the same building.
Right, let's get on with some of the questions here. What do you think in your particular area, and we'll go back to Maria again, in your particular field within dairy food science, what are the key research challenges or the gaps in knowledge that we have that we need to be working on in the future?
I think within the animal science, the hot topic now is all about environment and sustainability. So well, at least in the developed country. So I think that there should be differences. So in the developed countries, the main focus is on sustainability at the moment, reducing methane emissions, mitigate climate changes as much as possible through the animal science. This works through nutrition, genetics, animal husbandry, and everything. While on the countries in development, the main challenges are actually increasing the efficiency. So I remember, I think it was the first World Dairy Summit in Chicago, and it was probably a plenary session, and we were talking about AI. And there were the developed countries saying, okay, AI, artificial intelligence, including artificial intelligence into the farms. And then there was a person from Africa saying, okay, for us, AI and increasing AI is artificial insemination. So it was more about doing better genetics in the animals, increasing efficiency. And I think these are the main challenges. So there is still a pretty big gap across the countries. And there is a clear difference about what are the focus in the two group of countries, and sustainability is one, and definitely improve efficiency is the other topic for the other group of countries.
Very good. So Natalie, how about you in your area? What are the key challenges in the future?
I think it's an interesting one, given that when you look at, where milk comes from, that we drink milk for nutrition, there's not a lot of, but increasing opposition to animal source food products. When we look at milk from a nutritional perspective, it's just such a powerhouse food. There's so much in it. And we're not just talking macronutrients, protein and fats, but we're talking all those minerals, those vitamins. So calcium, for example, is one of the main ones. And we know that most countries are undersupplying calcium to, their population. If we see a decrease in the level or the amount of milk products being consumed, I think we will only see that deficiency grow. And of course, the implications of a lack of calcium are huge. So if we boil that down, I think we need to understand what the challenges for milk in the human diet are and understand how we can start to combat those. I think we need to make strategies, come up with strategies that address some of those really, really quickly.
Yeah. And Devil, what do you think are the key challenges?
So the most important thing, and I will actually continue with to Maria's and Natalie's statements, it's actually the most important thing for me, I would say the processing, producing high value dairy products. as Natalie said, dairy, actually milk is a powerhouse. Knowing how to produce a good, high quality dairy products can be of a big importance, not just only for the dairy industry, saving a lot of efforts, money and time, but also for the human health. As well, like if I can connect with my area of research in the past was all the time A2 milk, for example. So no one knows exactly what are the benefits or what are the downfalls of drinking conventional or A2 milk. There are not a lot of studies. There are some studies, but not everything. So those things, not just only for A2 milk, but in general for other types of milks, we have to actually put more emphasis on health benefits, but also purchasing. How did those particular milks will influence the dairy industry, for example. So those are the things that I would think that that we have to look more for from the dairy perspective at the moment, which is generally overlapping with Maria and Natalie's statements.
Do you see, and I'll throw this question out to anybody who would like to answer, plant-based mimetics of milk? Do you think that's a challenge, a threat to the dairy industry, or what are your opinions on that?
To be honest, Professor, I wouldn't say there is that there is a threat. So every product will find its place in the market. Dairy, I'm sure that the dairy industry will not will not fall down, because I would mention again, milk is a powerhouse, as Natalie said. It's a very good product. Plus, it tastes amazing. So at the moment, I'm not against plant-based products. Of course, they will find their place in the markets. They're finding, and also the novel dairy protein ingredients. They're upcoming in the markets. Precision fermentation. So they will find its place on the market. But I'm sure that nothing at the moment can change the nutritional value and such a great product as milk and of course the dairy products. That's my opinion.
I'll add to what Davor just said. I think I agree, but I think it's important for us to remember the rest of the world, so to speak. I think it's easy for us to sit here in a potentially wealthy westernized context and go, yes, we see a lot of these plant milks, they could be a threat to traditional dairy products. But for such a large proportion of the world, milk, as in animal source milk, whether that's from a goat, a cow, a buffalo, is a big portion of the diet. And in a lot of cultures or countries, and a plant mimetic, as you've nicely called it, just isn't an option, either nutritionally, financially, from a sustainability perspective. So I think that's a consideration too when we look at whether it's a threat to the global dairy industry or not.
If I can just quickly jump, again, I wouldn't say it's a threat. I would say it might improve it might be beneficial for some things that we can't actually, we know that milk is a live material. So by adding some ingredients that might improve its characteristics for the dairy industry and for the human health, it might be beneficial, but I wouldn't say it's a threat, and the dairy industry shouldn't be scared. So everything will find its place in the market.
You mentioned processing, Davor, and I'm just wondering how you would make a cheese from plant proteins.
Correct. That's a very, very big challenge and impossible.
It is a huge challenge. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Not just texture, but taste as well. But yes,
That's
yeah,
true.
all things are possible.
Correct.
Good. Now, I didn't ask Maria or Davor what was the best moments you had at the World Dairy Summit in the last one that you went to. So we'll go to Maria, and that would have been last year, right, in Paris?
Yeah. Well, if I have to talk about the World Dairy Summit, it was amazing, the welcome reception. We were in Louvre, and it was open only for us, which I think it's something that can happen once in your life. being in front of Mona Lisa just with other 2, 3 people. I went there before when it was open to everyone, and it is absolutely impossible. Like, I mean, there is a queue of people. You cannot really see that well. And we were there just as from IDF. It was amazing. Like, I mean, it is just very well organized. And regarding the conference and the topics, yeah, I think actually all the topics are very nice. But again, the presentation of the prize, I was there with my family. Um, I think that part was very good for me, and I really liked it being there with my whole family, with my daughter, and it was very, very nice for me.
And Deborah, I don't know whether you're in Paris or not, but you were certainly in Chicago.
Yes, I was in Chicago. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it for Paris. But I could say I was I was at the last year of my PhD, and it was the best thing that happened during my PhD career. So I've never been before to even up to date to any conference on that level, I must say. Firstly, people who were part of the organizers, I want to say thanks for the organizers for putting so much effort on organizing such a great summit, and of course the level of knowledge, people that I met, colleagues, professors, some of the idols that I have as well in the dairy sector, and the dinner that was in the Field Museum, it was breathtaking. I will never forget that moment. So it will stay forever. So yeah.
Yes,
That's
I
the
do
thing that I
remember
remember.
the dinosaurs.
Correct. The dinosaurs in the middle. It was like the night in the museum, the movie.
Yeah,
It's very
it
good.
was very good. Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
We do have a couple of questions that I will get to in a minute. The first is looks like it's from Maria from IDF. She wants to say something about the IDF in Chile, which I will get to. Don't worry about that. And the other question was, what's the procedure to apply for the award? And I will talk about that with one more slide at the end of this discussion. So let's just maybe we can finish off on another question here. What advice would you give to emerging scientists or early career scientists to establish a career in dairy? Any advice, any positive things, any words of caution? Let's go back to Maria.
Well, I am at the very start, so I can just tell what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is get involved in as much working group as possible. So this means IDF, but also other organizations. So I'm involved in other working groups in other organizations, and again, it permits to know what happens in other countries. So, for example, last year at the end of the Environment Standing Committee, it was okay, what are the environment politics that are going on in all the different countries? So we heard about what was happening all around the world in terms of sustainability and how the politics is adapting to the climate changes, and in terms specifically on the dairy sector. So it's being involved in working groups, being involved in organizations. This permits, I think there are 2 benefits for that. The first one is again networking, being able to work with people with more experience than you, which are generally willing to help you and to share their knowledge as well. And the other benefit is gaining knowledge. So you heard about again what's happening all around the world, what are the main topics of interest, where the industry is working to solve issues, um, and this is what I'm trying to do. This means that in one of the last international conference I went to, I was chairing a session as in part of a working group, and again, it helps gaining visibility. So yeah, and in particular, for example, IDF, being involved in action teams, Again, if you're an expert and there are some topics coming out, some works specifically on what you know, I think it's a very good opportunity to progress your career.
What about your word of advice, Natalie?
I absolutely second what Maria said, but I think also, and it's probably the same with other industries, but there's just so much that dairy. So from the farm through to processing, through to, you know, the marketing, through to the consumer at the end who's consuming that, their choices, their nutrition, there's just a broad field. And I think something that can be quite important, I mean, obviously it depends where you want to go within that whole, you know, process chain, but I think something that's quite important is to gain an understanding, an overview of more than just the field that you're working in. I think that's really important with something like the dairy industry, and I think that was very apparent at the World Dairy Summit. I think the organisers did a great job there of capturing displays, talks, you know, sessions from the whole very, you know, wide variety of things that goes into producing a glass of milk, getting that to the consumer, as well as what happens when that consumer consumes the milk. So I think that would probably be one of my big ones. And the second one, of course, isn't so specific to dairy, but just anyone interested in research in general. I think it's important to put yourself out there. You know, take the opportunities, engage with people. It's just so important. I think everyone can probably relate to that on some level.
That's a good point. And I'd also like to add that if you are reluctant to meet people, if you're a shy person, then find one person that can introduce you to other people. And that's a good way to go about doing it. So if you get the opportunity to go to a World Dairy Summit, find somebody from your own country, find somebody from your national committee in your country, and ask them. Just be upfront about it. Who can I meet that's working in my area? Who do you think I should meet? And go for it. So Davor, sorry, Natalie.
No, I was just going to say, often that snowballs into, you know, they'll introduce you to someone and you'll get talking about what you're doing, and they know 3 more people that you really need to go and meet. So it works well.
Yes, and I have to say, dairy people are the friendliest and nicest people in the world. Maybe
And if
I'm
I can add
biased.
something about the price as well, I think it is the first time. Generally, you go to introduce to the other people because you're the young person going to introduce. The good thing about being able to present our work as part of the prize, there were people coming to ask us something, which is a bit different to what happens generally. But after presenting, there were people coming and presenting themselves and asking more questions, which sometimes doesn't really happen. It goes on the opposite way. So it was a very good opportunity.
Yep, very good. And Davor, any comments?
Yeah, I would say I was as Maria, I'm in a very young position at the moment. I just started my postdoc, so I would say 4 words that drives me always throughout my career. It's commercialized, apply, translate, and create. Those are the things for the people who are applying for this award. Just take risks and be bold. So, and don't be scared to showcase yourself, and especially if you have a great managers that can push you out of your comfort zone. I was lucky to be supervised by 2 great people, Professor Todor Vasilievich and Dr. Noel McCartney, who actually supported me throughout my PhD, and were of great support when I actually when I decided to apply for this award. So it's not the easiest part in life, but it's enjoyable. It tastes like a glass of milk after that, so it's silky. So take risks and meet a lot of people. That's the most important thing, and especially people who that you learn from them. So you read their books, those names. Just go approach them, and that's the most valuable thing that everyone can do, because you learn a lot from those connections as well. So that will be my advice.
Good. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for participating in this. It's been a very enjoyable conversation. I hope it's helpful to the people who are listening or who will be listening when it's available as a recording online. I do want to finish off with a couple of things. One is a very important question: how do you apply for this prize? How do you put an application in? And then we'll close the session. So what I'll do is try and get my slide back up here again, if I can get this. And where is it? Where is it? Yeah, that's always a tough thing, trying to find things. Just bear with me here. Right, I think this might work. Probably not. Just tell me when you can see the slide, and I can.
Yeah, we can see the slide, Professor.
Right. So if I can you see the entire presentation now?
Yes.
The PowerPoint. Very good. I'm not sure how I got that to work, but it did. So just to let you know how to go about this, the application process. Well, first of all, it closes on May the 26th, so that's just a little over a month away. And at present, applications are emailed to that email address down the bottom. So it's info@fil-idf.org. So the submissions require a couple of things. The first is a written abstract on some research that you've done. Now, it can be anything, really, anything that you've done that's relevant to dairy science and technology. And then a short 4-minute video where you would present your work. And you can be as creative as you like with that. And also, they need to be in English so that the judges can assess the quality. So of that 4-minute video, we generally expect that you might give 1-minute presentation, introducing yourself, and then 3 minutes on your research. So who can apply? Down the bottom there, early career professionals working on scientific and/or technological topics relevant to IDF and the global dairy sector. And the applicants must be within 3 years of graduation from their highest earned degree. So not necessarily a PhD, but your highest earned degree. The first place winner, the conference registration at the World Dairy Summit is waived. There's an honorarium of €400, travel expenses up to €1,800. Second and third prize winners also receive an honorarium, and all first, second, and third place getters will be able to present their work in person, live, at the World Dairy Summit. And that leads me to, where is this World Dairy Summit coming to? So it was in Paris last year, and next year, or sorry, this year I should say, it is in Santiago de Chile, October 20th to 23rd later this year. So that's going to be a great time. And to follow on from that, we're going to have a second Southern Hemisphere World Dairy Summit in 2026 in Auckland, New Zealand. So that'll be 2 to put on your calendars. So again, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing the applications as they come forward sometime after May 26. So thank you all, and that was a great conversation we've had.